In our recent trip to Mount Augustus, we had a quick look at a brand new Mitsubishi Outlander all-wheel drive that was travelling with us. So today I thought we'd have a closer look at it. While you can get on the internet and have a look at all the specs for this vehicle, what I'm more interested in is what it's like for the real person. So let's have a look. When I'm sitting in the driver's seat, I like to be able to see and reach all the gauges and switches without having to move my head around to find them. Yep, I think you can probably tick that box. So your cruise control and your stereo controls are here on the steering wheel, which is pretty normal these days. There are a couple of switches down here by my right knee, which are a bit hard to see, but they're not something that I'd generally be looking at when or wanting to deal with when I'm driving down the road, so it's not really a big problem. And it has a really good sound system, which is something you need when you're out at the football and you know you're out for 100 kilometres. The seating position for a decent sized person is not bad. Fair bit of room around you. Headroom's not bad. But if you're sitting in the back seat, it's a little bit cramped, but that's happening more often now as we go into smaller sized cars, so it's pretty normal. So that's the inside. Let's go and have a look around the outside. The car's full of safety gimmicks, which in my book takes the responsibility away from the driver to pay attention to what they're doing and makes them rely more on technology, like lane departure and blind spot monitoring. Don't get me wrong, these are great aids in the hands of a good driver, but in the hands of a crappy driver, it just makes them worse. And we've all seen that with reversing cameras in car parks. I'm sure you've all been in a car park and you've seen the person get in the car and reverse out, never look in the mirrors, never look behind them, they just sit there staring at the camera. If you can't see it in the camera, it's not important apparently. So this is a 2.4 litre east-west petrol engine, but you can also get them in a 2 litre petrol engine and a 2.2 litre diesel engine. This is fitted with a 6-speed automatic transmission, and the 2-wheel drive comes in a 5-speed automatic transmission. So let's now look at all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive are not the same thing. In this vehicle, the engine produces the power and it sends that power to both the front wheels and the back wheels at the same time, regardless of whether you're on a hard surface like bitumen or a soft surface like gravel or snow. And thanks to some clever gadgetry inside the central differential system, that makes sure that you don't get bind up and your transmission doesn't explode into a million pieces. And I'll explain bind up in a minute. Now in a proper 4-wheel drive, the engine produces the power and most of the time that goes just to the rear wheels in 2-wheel drive. It's not until you select 4-wheel drive inside the car that the power will now go to the front wheels and to the back wheels. Now you can't drive in 4-wheel drive on a bitumen road because of bind up. Now 4-wheel drives have a high and a low range, except for I think either Amarok or the Ranger, I can't remember. One of them now have done away with the high and low range, and what they've done in their transmission, The first and second gear are really low gear, so it gives you your low range, and then it changes into the higher range gears. So what is bind up? Well, when you're driving in a straight line down the road, both wheels left and right are travelling at the same speed in the same direction. Let me show you on a very expensive map I have prepared earlier. So when you turn to go around the corner, one side has to travel further than the other side to keep up. So if you're turning left, the right side travels further than the left. If you do this enough times, the cogs, they begin to start binding up, and usually you can feel the steering wheel start to get heavier as you turn around a corner, but eventually, if you keep going, something's going to break. On slippery ground like this, your tyres can slide on it, so that stops the cogs from binding up, and quite certainly that's the difference between four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. So getting back to the Outlander, can it go where a proper four-wheel drive can go? Well, if you have a look at the ads on TV and on the internet, they climb mountains, they go in the deserts, but look at it closely, you'll see they're actually on formed gravel roads. So basically in a nutshell, no, they can't. What all-wheel drives are good for are when driving on snow or on loose gravel roads. The all-wheel drive gives you better driving and steering control with all that smart stuff they have packed in there. But that doesn't mean they can't get off-road and get a little dirty. Yes, you can drive them on hard sandy beaches and up bush tracks, but there are a couple of things you have to keep in mind.
Ground clearance is a big issue. On a four-wheel drive, it has high clearance to avoid rocks and to climb over ruts. On anything more than small rutted tracks, all-wheel drive, not so much clearance.
Under a proper four-wheel drive, under the engine and the gearbox, we have bash plates protected all from rocks and stuff. Under an Outlander, we've got a plastic plate, which will catch the bolts if you're working on the engine and you happen to drop some. On a four-wheel drive, we've got big tyres. Big tyres so that it gives us better ground clearance. We can also let the air out of the tyres so that if we're on sand and that gives us better traction. Gives us better grip if we're on gravel roads or doing a bit of rock climbing, that sort of thing. The Outlander's got low profile tyres. Not really any room there to be able to let some air out. So you're kind of stuck with what you got. Now, okay, you could think, let's put bigger tyres on. You can do that, no problem. But what are you going to do with your spare tyre? Will it fit in the wheel well in the back? In this vehicle you do have the option of going between all-wheel drive and two-wheel drive, but there is no high and low range with it. Now, I'm not saying that this is a piece of rubbish. What I am saying is you need to think about what you want to do with a vehicle, whether an all-wheel drive is going to do the job or a four-wheel drive is going to do the job you want. If you want to travel on bitumen roads, gravel roads, that sort of thing, this is quite fine, as we saw in the Mount Augustus trip. This travelled on the gravel roads quite comfortably. It was really good on fuel. It was not a problem with it. But would I take it on off-road stuff? Nah, I wouldn't. I've had some people say to me that they've taken their all-wheel drives into the beach and that sort of thing. And that's great. You might be on hard sand, but what happens when you hit a soft patch? You've got no ground clearance underneath to give you any sort of assistance to get out, and you're not a four-wheel drive. You're going to be bogged and you're going to be buggered. And if you need to be recovered out of that soft sand, there is nowhere under here where you can put any recovery points. So if that's the sort of thing you want to do, maybe an all-wheel drive is not the right choice. You might want to look at a proper four-wheel drive. Now, one last thing. If you're thinking about towing with this can tow about 1,600 kilograms. So yeah, small camper trailer would be doable on that. Now, I know a couple of people have got this type of car, and in the couple of years they've had them, they have had no issues with them whatsoever, and that's pretty good going for a new car these days. Alright, so thanks Nathan for letting me use your car today. So you've had this for little under a year or something now, haven't you?
Yeah, I had it for about 12 months now.
Still going all right?
Yeah, going well. It's just had its first major service and no problems at all.
Good one. I've prepared some questions here I'm going to ask you about this. So you ready for the, what do they call it, fast fire questions or something?
Go for it.
What do we got here? So how many cars did you look at before you decided to get this one, and what made you decide on this car over the others?
Well, this was the first one I actually looked at. It was actually this particular car. So I had a look at that one, had a look at about 4 others, all mid-sized SUVs, and found this one was the best one to suit my needs and give me everything I wanted in the car.
Alrighty, very good. Did you actually consider a proper four-wheel drive as well?
No, I didn't, because at the time I was on a bit of a budget, so I had to look at what I could afford and taking all the extras that needed to be added as well. So I had a bit of a budget to stick to, so I didn't look at the four-wheel drives.
So you're a reasonable sized bloke. How'd you go sit in the car for that length of time on our trip? And the space around you, the height and the seat comfort, how'd you go with that?
Well, it was pretty good actually. I'm 6'2", so like that was the main factor of looking at this car as well, because the seat being right back can give me enough leg room and plenty of room around me, like height-wise and seat-wise as well. It was quite comfortable.
Now that the car is settled in, how's it going on fuel and performance?
Look, it goes really good. I take it to Geraldton once or twice a month. Can probably get up there and back again on one tank if I pushed it. If not, I take probably about half a tank to get up to Geraldton, which is about 450k.
Well, that's not bad. A tank of fuel up there and back, that's pretty good. Can you tell me a bit about how it handles when it's loaded on the road and on the dirt?
Well, when we were at Mount Augustus, we were fully loaded, so being away for the week, we had to have their own food and fridges and stuff like that. So it's quite a bit of weight, but it actually went quite well on the gravel. It handled very well indeed.
Do you remember whether you were in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive?
Most of the time I was in two-wheel drive.
I should say all-wheel drive, actually.
Or all-wheel drive. Yeah, most of the time I was in the normal running road conditions, but there was a few patches where I had to go into the four-wheel drive mode. But it handled it quite well.
When packing the car, how'd you go for fitting everything in?
Yeah, not a problem. It's a 7-seater, so I could actually lay all the seats right down, and that gave me heaps of room to pack stuff in the back and have it reasonably flat.
All right, well, thanks very much for that, Nathan. As I said, thanks for letting us use your car today. Now, these are just my thoughts and my opinions on an all-wheel drive vehicle. You might have other considerations. I was really aiming this at the person who is looking for something like that but didn't know the difference between an all-wheel four-wheel drive. So I'm hoping that perhaps maybe this has helped you in making your decision on which way you want to go with it. So if you like that video, hit the thumbs up and go down the bottom and hit the subscribe button down there as well. But anyway, that's it for this one. So till next time, happy travels. On our recent trip to Mount Augustus, we had a quick look at a brand new all-wheel drive Mitsubishi Outlander. So today, I thought he was travelling with us.
You only just realised today he was travelling with us?
When I'm sitting in the driver's seat, I like to be able to see and reach all the gauges and switches without the motorbikes in the background going off all the time. So the car's full of a lot of gimmicks, like lane departure and what's the other one? Blind spot.
You messed that up completely.
Did I?
It's full of safety gimmicks, which in my book...
Oh, okay. So the car's full of safety gimmicks, which in my book are... I've mucked that up again, haven't I? The car's full of safety gimmicks, which, don't get me wrong, that's not right. The car's full of safety gimmicks, which in my book says something. But for a crappy driver, it just makes them shit.
Not quite.
No, I know, because I've got no idea what that bit was. So getting back to the Outlander, I'm back at the Outlander. What is it? I forgot what I'm saying.
I can also see cut the door.
That's alright, that's alright.
Okay.
I'm doing something different.
Well, in this vehicle you have the option for driving two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. There is no high or low range, which could be a problem when on soft sand.
What she said. Alright. Alright, thanks Nathan for... that was stupid. Was that one running? So in a proper four-wheel drive, sobriety test again. So what is bind up? Got that line right, what's the rest of it?
When you're driving in a straight line.
That's right.